my stove here. Set my hammock hot tent. Stovepipe going out the jack. And a tiny little catalytic heater there. With Coleman white gas. Had that running for a while to try to warm the place up, and yeah, the fire's gonna be nice. Get this place a little toastier in here. You can see there's snow on the ground, and it's been in the 20s yesterday, 30s today. A little chilly. Let that get going. Oh, that's a pretty boil. I'll make a little bit of peppermint tea. So I just put this thermometer in here, and it's getting up. It was at 55 earlier when I brought it in on my pocket, and it's about 38 outside. It's definitely toasty in here. It's getting warmer. I got some of my stuff here out of the back of the truck. It's a nice windy night, but hanging out at Ferncliff, and there's a couple of people staying here in the Class A. Class C is closed. They gated it off. There's a sheet of ice across the road, and I was gonna do a night hike here, so they ended up detouring it over to Dutchman Lake. It was fun. My insides were a little, I hadn't eaten yet, and then I had to go do constitutional, so my insides were just blech, you know, and I was sweating and dehydrated and everything. So I got through it. Stopped back into town and hit the restroom at the gas station and looked at a couple things there, and I decided to come back here to the campsite. And so yeah, there's like one RV up in the first come first serve, and then there's a little, like, I don't know, Mercedes van type thing, Sprinter van looking thing up here in the Class A's. So that's about it. There were a bunch of people out here earlier in the day hiking and stuff, a bunch of college kids, families and whatnot, and they were just parking up here in the Class A and going down a couple of the auxiliary trails, but everything else was closed, so you couldn't even get to the lake or any of the official trailheads or any of that. So I think Blackjack Oak, and then the back way to get down to like the waterfall trail and stuff, you could take those, but yeah, a bunch of ice, slicker and snot out here. So but I got my little Shangri-La going. It's gonna be nice. Well, into Shangri-La. Oh, this is nice. Nice and toasty in here. Says, come on, 77. That's nice. So I got my hammock here. Got a black quilt, and I got the screen thrown back a little bit. I got 0 degree top quilt and pillow in there, and I got 0 degree under quilt, and there's plenty of snow on the ground. Got a little bit of water left in here. Got some aloe juice, and got a little catalytic heater in case when the fire goes out in the night. I've got a little remnant of heat in here, so it's not totally freezing. Good morning, America. How are ya? Welcome to Shangri-La. Overall, not a bad night's sleep. Went to bed about 11:30 last night. I think it was about 38 something last night, and came in here, had the hot tent going. It was probably 94 in here, and ended up sleeping until, I don't know, 3:30 or so. Coyotes were out serenading, and went and did my business outside and got a little something to drink, and ended up going back to sleep. And so it's about 7 right now, and I think it's about 51 in here. A little thermometer that I got, but got a little heater going, and not too bad. You know, keeps a little edge off. I think it's about 37, 38 again outside right now. Nice cold February morning. But yeah, you can see there's like no snow in here anymore. When I first came in, there's a little smidgen of it there near that lid. There was all snow and ice, bunch of slick stuff everywhere outside. This just warmed it all up in here, dried that all out. And that little catalytic heater over there, that's been a dandy. About 5,000 to 8,000 BTU. Old Coleman white gas catalytic. So you just fill that up and flip it over, wet the wick. You take that little lid open and do all that, and then you light it, and you'll burn about 15 minutes, big old flame, and when that dies down, the wick will start glowing like one of those little Joni or Zippo hand warmer thingies, and they'll provide you, I don't know, 11 to 15 hours or so of heat, depending how much fuel you got in the tank. But I put a whole gallon of fuel in there. Started at, I don't know, 5 o'clock yesterday, and yeah, that's it. Ran probably a good 11, 12 hours, but not too bad. Yeah, I'm touching it, so it's getting a little warmer, but it was like 51. My body heat keeps making it go up. So it's like 51 degrees in here when I picked this thing up off the table. And this thing will be 98.6 pretty soon if I keep holding it. You can kind of see a little more of my setup here. Got my 0 degree top quilt and 0 degree under quilt. And you can see on this side of the tent, it's still snowy. Got my little Hill Sound stool over there. Whew. My continuous ridge line there. This is my tent. I'm trying to put 20 pounds of camel dung in a 5-pound bag. Whew. Stuff sacks are never big enough. But we'll see. Gotta get the quilt back in its bag. Getting there. Whew. My golly, we did it. Yeah, just getting my stuff taken down a little bit. Packed up my hammock quilts in both of their bags. And Top quilt seemed fine. Under quilt, I don't know if it was ground moisture or if it was from me sweating when I had the stove on in the night, but probably from sweat. I don't think it was from ground condensation, but it was wet. The under quilt was in a lot of spots when I was packing it back in. So I'll have to hang that out to dry when I get back home. But yeah, I mean, the ground had so much snow and hard, compact, like ice snow when I got in here, and the parking area is still like that. It's supposed to warm up today, so some of that'll melt, but yeah, I got in this tent last night and all this was just snowy, and then over the course of the night with the heater and the fire going, the half closest to the stove where the hammock was, that all melted, and then the other half still has snow on the ground. But I figured if it was ground condensation, it would have been wet along the entire length of that underquilt, but it seemed like it was only in certain sections, so that makes me wonder if it was just from sweat and stuff just going down into the quilt. I don't know if any of you guys have ever experienced that, but yeah, I guess if you don't have a stove on, I'm not going to sweat, won't have that problem. The ground condensation part, I've got underquilt protectors, I just don't use them. I don't know, I just lazy. But if I'm ever out somewhere where I think the ground's going to be wet, or I'm going to be a little close to the ground, that's where something like that would pay off, or in a rainstorm where you get splashed back on your quilt. So probably I'll start using one of those and just see if it makes a difference. But yeah, stoked my fire a little bit to get some warmth back in here, and those little compressed sawdust logs are glowing pretty good. That's a Seek Outside extra large wood stove. Only one they make bigger than that is their Big Mama, and this one's pretty good for probably up to an 8-man size teepee or so, but it definitely makes it warm. It just bolts together. It's this little sheet metal titanium, and just try not to over tighten it so you don't warp the sides and the bottoms and stuff too much, but it's pretty nice. It's got a little spark arrestor and flapper and stuff in there, and then you got the roll up pipe. And a couple people ask about the pipe. I basically start my rings on the other side and kind of move them down, and then that last one there where you got that ring right there, what I do, I set that pipe on the spark arrestor and flapper doohickey, so I put it around it, and then as I'm bringing those rings down, as I get close to the bottom, it tightens it right around that pipe, around the arrestors there, so that sucker's not going anywhere. It's nice and snug. And people are like, well, what about creosote? Well, when you're burning things hot, these things are glowing red in the night. When you're burning them hot, there is no creosote that is going to come down that, because the first half of the pipe is really hot. That stuff's just going to vaporize and burn off and everything. When you got like junk wood, so when you're burning stuff like pine or wet wood, which don't ever do, something that's got a lot of sap or a lot of moisture in it or something, that will cause you problems with creosote in your pipe. If you're burning like ash and oak or these sawdust logs that don't have a whole lot of stuff in them, never burn a wax log. That's #1 tip. But you know, if you burn a good hardwood or something that's dry, properly, you know, seasoned, you probably won't have any issues with creosote that much. You're still going to get some black junk inside the pipe, I mean soot. You're going to get a little crystallization of stuff in one spot, and you're going to get kind of powder or a little stickiness if you got like a pine or a sappy wood. You're going to get some of that in the pipe. But you can wipe that stuff down, you know, with just a old t-shirt or something when you're packing it up. And it's really not a bad thing. I mean, it's not really going to burn up in this. The only place you really got to worry about creosote is, like I say, if you're burning really crap wood, wet wood, and you got it in a house, you know, those kinds of flues you have to worry about. But on this, not so much. I mean, I've had hot fires with short pipes where I've had fire coming out of the top of, say, a 5-foot pipe. But you get to an 8, 9, 10-foot pipe, no, you're not going to have a problem with it. And this stuff's just venting to the outside world, so it's not like, you know, oh, chimney fire. Well, titanium's rated to melt at like 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so that fire's not going to get that hot. So you're pretty good with these. If you start noticing buildup in your pipes, just flip it next time, you know. That's the easiest way to do it. That way you just burn the crap out of the one end, and next time you burn it out of the other end, and eventually, you know, it meets in the middle, and, you know, it's not that bad. But I think a lot of people, they burn just junk wood, and they've got, you know, section pipes, and they put them on funky, and, you know, yeah. But I've heard people talking with these roll-up ones, like, oh, you need to put it inside the little spark arrestor and all that, and no, I've tried that in the past. If you do that, there's nothing for it to grip onto. If you got a good gust of wind, whoop, there goes your pipe. So this method, like I say, starting off the rings on one end and bringing them down, and then putting that little spark arrestor thing on the bottom down there, because that like grips into the hole on the stove, and then you put your final rings down, it'll tighten that right on there, and it's not going anywhere. So it's the safest bet for assembling these. And like I say, put wing nuts and stuff on these, don't over tighten them. That'll, you know, when the metal expands when it's hot, that'll cause your stove to warp a lot more. If it's loose, it's all right. It's not really going to fall apart on you. It's not going to cause some big gusts of fire coming out. You know, worst case I've ever had with the stove in the past was when stuff was warped a little bit. And you can unwarp it over time, if you know what you're doing. You can take a blowtorch and unwarp it. But basically, if you got a little warpage, you might get some, you know, smoke penetration out the side where it meets the bottom of the top. But for the most part, if you got a good hot fire, you got a good draw, you're not going to have any problems. Well, it's all cleared out. So you see there's still some snow on that side, and no snow over here. Did break the leaves away from the stove in the night when all this stuff started melting. But you can see between that and the heater, it melted quite a bit. So it's not bad in here. You got that little center pole in there. It gives it a little bit of structural rigidity. Pretty nice. Well, there's the campsite. It's all cleared out. You can figure out where the tent was. Nice clear patch there.